Alright guys, it's Valendro again. Let's see if I can get this right. I tried this once already, going into a little bit of detail. This is the E3 vlog. I tried doing this by going into a little bit of detail over everything, and it took me about 30 minutes just to go through one conference's worth of stuff, so this has the potential to be an incredibly stupidly long vlog if that's what I want to do with it, and it's not. Like, I don't mind doing a 30, 45 minute vlog, but to do a 35, 40 minute blog over one of six press conferences that happened at E3 is going to be, 3-4 hour video. And I don't think anyone wants that chopped up into the segments. I don't think anyone wants that. And if you do, awesome. But that's not something that I can really provide content-wise at the moment. So maybe next year we'll be able to do the actual live stream and talk about the convention or the conferences and everything as they happen, like we did in years past. Here's hoping that we get things set up. I'm hoping we get stuff for random encounters sorted out soon. Trademark. I'll have information for you about that next week. Hopefully I'll be able to tell you more about what our plans are. For right now, we're here for the E3 vlog, so let's do that. We'll go ahead and run through the conferences in order. Starting out, we had EA, and EA was a terrible, terrible train wreck. They touted several systems that are supposed to be new and innovative, but among those include character customization for a sports game, trying to make esports more legitimate and more active, and a game called A Way Out, which is the only thing new about that game. Everyone is giving it so much credit, so much hype, and okay, yeah, I'll give you, it might be an interesting game, I don't know. It's very story driven, but it's heavily choice based, so it's like, take the Telltale game, but put it in The Last of Us mechanics, and that's the game. There's nothing new about this game except that it's forced co-op split screen. Even if you play online, it's forced split screen because it's a very story-driven game about two characters, and so you have to see both sides at the same time. So that's the only thing new about this, and everybody's like, oh, so new, so amazing. It's not. It's just forced split screen. It's a dynamic split screen. Size of the split screen changes depending on which character has a main focus, or whether it's just a random normal area running around. It's not. There's nothing really new in that game at all, mechanics wise or system wise or anything. Nothing. It's a game like everything else we've ever played. Stop making it into something new when it's not. Forced split screen. It's the only thing new. Shut the fuck up. That character customization in a sports ball game, that used to be a big thing. Make your own character. Put yourself into the franchise with all these other players. Used to be a thing. It's not new. EA was real big on that. But there were two things from EA that actually were new, and they tried to downplay those as much as possible. Well, they tried to downplay how new it was as much as possible. First off, they listened to their customers. I know, surprising, but they actually listened. And Battlefront 2 is almost an exact replica, an up-to-date version of the original Battlefront 2. So Battlefront 2, the Star Wars Battlefield game, is almost a direct replica of the original Battlefront 2. They brought so many parts of that back into this game that I'm going to go out and get it. The first one I never got. The first one was a piece of shit. I was able to try it before I had to make the decision of whether I wanted to buy it or not, and it was not worth it. There was no replayability, and because so few people bought the season pass for it, and a lot of those that did, the game population dropped off so tremendously after it came out. It was just terrible reception, and so it just crashed immediately. And when all these new maps and everything came out, no one was able to play it on there because the player base was so low that they couldn't find enough people who had the season pass and were able to actually play on these maps at any one time. So matchmaking just almost never gave those new maps. And so the first new thing is that they listened to their customers when it came to Battlefront and emulated the original Battlefront 2. And the second thing is going back to player retention and the fact that they couldn't populate any of the new content they made for their users. Battlefront 2, for the first time, the seasons, the DLC updates, 100% free after launch. Anything that comes out post-launch for this game, any updates, anything, is free for everybody who bought the game. I know it's a novel idea that once you buy the game, you own the game, but they're doing that. And so this way, when new maps come out, when new stuff comes out, it's not going to leave other players behind. People are actually going to have enough available players to go ahead and actually populate the games. I think EA is going to see a huge resurgence with this one, as far as opposed to the previous Battlefront game. They're going to find a noticeable amount of player retention between that and a lot of the other advancements that they've made. So, Battlefront 2 looks awesome. Battlefield 1, they announced and teased the first DLC for that game. And one of the things that they're doing with that is they're adding in... Apparently people were upset by the multiplayer maps being too large and, having various phases and objectives throughout the course. And so one thing that they're doing is they're making smaller, more enclosed, what they called more hardcore PvP maps. So basically they're bringing Call of Duty maps and Call of Duty gameplay into Battlefield, which I think is a big mistake for them as a franchise. They've done a good job staying separate and unique from Call of Duty, and Call of Duty is also one of the most toxic game communities I've ever seen. And so I think that by staying unique, by staying out of it, that Battlefield has done a good thing in not alienating their customer base and not bringing that toxic environment over. And I think that this might be a bad step as far as that franchise is concerned. I think that Battlefront is taking a very Call of Duty step to the side, and I'm afraid it's going to very negatively impact their system. Also, Need for Speed is back with a new game, and you actually fight other cars in this. It's another one where the cops chase you down, and you're up against other criminal organizations, and so you actually fight cars. The other cars actually have a health bar, and you get to crash them into things just like you did with Split Second or Burnout. They did also tease BioWare's new IP, Anthem, but they didn't show a whole lot. Most of what they did for Anthem came about during the Microsoft press conference, which that's the second one we're going to talk about. So since we're already talking about Anthem, let's go ahead and continue on with that. They teased Anthem. They showed it off real well at the Microsoft Xbox conference. Anthem is very interesting looking game. It's got a very interesting feel to it. I think it's definitely got elements of Destiny and stuff like that, but it looks like it's going to be just different enough that it'll really hold up on its own. It's going to be open world, not just the flying up in a spaceship and landing. You know, not another clone of Warframe. Destiny, why? Warframe's good enough. Warframe's better than Destiny. I'll go ahead and say it right now. Warframe is better than Destiny. Destiny is a cheap Warframe clone that didn't do right. Alright, so there's that. But yeah, Anthem is going to be, you get an exosuit, which is sort of your power suit, and the game has different classes, more or less, based on what suit you're wearing. You know, they've got the heavy suit, the ranger suit, and so on. You can customize those suits with different weapons and different loadouts and everything, and you get complete access to this giant open world from what it looks like. It looks like there are going to be dungeon instances where you jump into these shaper storms, which are going to go ahead and essentially open up some sort of portal. They didn't show what was inside there. They just showed everybody gearing up and jumping into one. Basically looks like it's going to be in a big open world. This is going to be the private dungeon instance. It had the seamless drop in and drop out mechanics for co-op play. There was not just running around this open world. They were jumping underwater and swimming around, and there were underwater creatures, and there were giant beasts that looked like they were straight out of the Lord of the Rings Shadow of Mordor series. There were what looked like Grogs fighting the smaller I don't know what, I can't even remember what the name of them are now, the big muscular things that aren't wolves that you can ride in Shadow of Mordor. But yeah, no, visually it was stunning. Mechanics-wise, it looked very similar yet new as far as the style is concerned. And I think that'll be a really interesting game to get your hands on and check out. Of course, Assassin's Creed Origins. I'm really sad about that one. I was really looking forward to the new Assassin's Creed. I was hoping it would be something amazing, something that would live up to the Assassin's Creed universe, the Assassin's Creed system, and it's not. They took a lot of what made Assassin's Creed, and kind of chucked it out the window. They kept the story with it, but they went to very much a Destiny-style RPG gameplay. You find gear with gear levels, and you have skill trees, and you have character levels, and you have you have for your bow and arrow, which it definitely looks like bow's going to play a big part of this since you don't have your other Assassin's gadgets. Your bow and arrow, you have bullet time, so you can float through the air and just kind of float there in midair for a long time while you aim your bow and shoot at things. And they actually have you control your arrow. It's like a homing arrow thing. Some mechanics that for a game are good, but for Assassin's Creed are not. It's very much not Assassin's Creed. The only thing that stays the same is that when you drop on people from the sky, you can stab them in the heart with a blade that happens to be on your wrist. That's really the only thing that's staying Assassin's Creed. Instead of having the eagle vision where you climb up to the top of a building and scan around and fill in part of your mini-map, instead the eagle vision is literally you have the powers of the Beastmaster from the 1980s and 90s, and you can look through the eyes of the eagle as it's up flying around in the sky. That's how you mark enemies and so on and so on. Which, you know, that's not something you used to be able to do. Really couldn't mark enemies or anything before because there wasn't really a system for it. I mean, there was no benefit for it. This, when you mark them, you don't have a mini-map anymore. There's across the very top of the screen, there is one of those little compasses, and so when you mark things, it'll put it on that compass. Yeah, no, very, very not Assassin's Creed. It also looks like there's going to be a lot more of a mystic, supernatural element to it, possibly from the more of the Eden artifacts or something else, who knows. But they showed a very much an Anubis-centric sort of design. I think they said that the cult that you're up against is a cult of Anubis. But one of the things they showed was a giant snake, a giant serpent, that was, the size of the serpent from the Harry Potter movie, the basilisk snake from the second movie. And, so that's, I don't know. It looks interesting, but it doesn't look like Assassin's Creed. There's a lot stunning going on for it. It looks very impressive, but it doesn't look like Assassin's Creed. Microsoft had a lot of stuff that they went over. Metro Exodus, PlayerUnknown is going to be an exclusive to the console. Deep Rock Galactic, which is a complete ripoff of Astroneer. They pulled an EA. Even several of the assets and the art design was exactly the same as Astroneer. State of Decay 2. The Darwin Project. Updates for Minecraft. Pretty much the same stuff they told us about last year. Just this year they say, hey, it's actually coming soon. Community marketplace where people can buy and sell things that they make. I'm not sure if they're going to make a microtransaction system for that, or if they're doing something else. Maybe it's a trade system or something you can earn in game. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a microtransaction system pop up with that. They're finally bringing in the crossplay like they've been talking about, community-run servers. They're also including a 4K update and what they call the Super Duper Graphics Pack, which takes and makes Minecraft feel not Minecraft at all. They added in realistic water graphics, and the plants, like the grass and the bushes and stuff, have a realistic effect. While the tree trunks are still square and the landscapes are still square, it's very hyper-realistic look to it, and super intense textures, which the textures look good. Textures are fine, but the hyper-realism with the water and the plants and the stuff like that, I feel is not very Minecraft. And that's probably just me. Again, it's taking something and trying to make more out of it than what it should be, and really kind of moving away from what it was meant to be in the first place. Dragon Ball Fighter Z is basically Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but all Dragon Ball Z characters. They showed off a couple of them. I'm not sure if it's going to have any of the other characters, or if it's just going to stick to the Z series. But what they showed off Boo and Frieza and Cell and Gohan, Goku, Vegeta, and all this kind of stuff. But it's very much a Marvels vs. Capcom 2 3v3 fighter game with the Marvel vs. Capcom, the SNK, the sort of just your generic 2D fighter, except all the graphics are entirely anime and look like they came directly from the show, and it's pretty freaking amazing. I'm probably not going to get it, since all it is that side-scroll fighter, or not side-scroll, I'm sorry, the 2D arena fighter, which those games are alright, but that's all it is. It really doesn't give me any desire or care to play it. Just like several other game genres, it just doesn't really hold any interest for me. I wouldn't mind playing it from time to time, but I'm not going to go out of my way to get it and play it all the time. It's something I might spend maybe 20 minutes on ever. And so while it looks impressive, it's nothing that I'm ever going to put any time into, and I'm hoping that they're using this as sort of a launch off to either bring back the Budokai franchise, or possibly, God, I'm still hoping for that Dragon Ball RPG that we never got. A good Dragon Ball RPG story game. They tried to do that with this last Xenosaga 1 and 2, and while it was a alright game, while you had sort of a story RPG feel, you created your own character, you went through this world, but it was still the Budokai style fighting and less on the RPG story side of it. I'm still looking for, like, it came out with Dragon Ball Sagas way back in the day, which was the Dragon Ball free roam RPG, and it was pretty bad. I'm still hoping for them to do something like that, but correct. So we'll see. I don't know. This game gives me hope that they're at least going to do something else with the franchise. Of course, there was the new Forza game, which I don't care about. Again, I'm not a big racer fan, and Forza's a track-based racer, so it really kind of leaves you stuck, so I'm not really going to probably invest in that one, but it looks nice. It looks impressive. I know a lot of people who do like the Need for Speed and the Forza series, and good for them. You'll like this. But not my sort of style. Ashen was another one they showed off. Had an interesting graphic style to it. It was a very RPG survival exploration game set sort of in the cradle of human existence, the wearing hide outfits with tied wooden shields and torch investigating caves and stuff. Sort of the feel they went for. You can tell it's not just like medieval, it's early man sort of style. Life is Strange Before the Storm, a Life is Strange prequel was announced. Not a whole lot shown off with it. Ori and the Will of the Wisps looked amazing. Just a teaser trailer, didn't show anything off for it. A fuck ton of Xbox One games are getting a free 4K update for the new Xbox, Project Scorpio. They did announce the name of that. It is the Xbox One X, because they're big on this whole no more new generations, just update what we have. And so while technically this is an entirely new console, it is still in the vein of the Xbox One somehow. And so it's the Xbox One X. Everything you can play on the Xbox One can be played on the One X. Several Xbox One games are getting a 4K update in order to accommodate that. The Xbox One X price tag was announced. It is only $499, which is what people were hoping for. It's the price of a new console, just high enough, but not too high for the technology that they put in it. So that was announced, and it was an acceptable price point for most of the gaming industry. And several people are still surprised on how they could offer that price. The speculated prices were varying from, on the low end, I believe some people were saying $300, but mostly $400 to upwards of $700 for the console. So $500 is a good ballpark. On top of that, they announced that they're going to be working on original Xbox games for the backwards compatibility. So not just the Xbox 360, but original OG Xbox games are going to be a part of the backwards compatibility. They also showed off, as I said, BioWare's new IP, Anthem. We talked about that. But then they also showed off Shadow of War, which looked great. I liked the first game, the Shadow of Mordor. Was a really fun game in the style of Assassin's Creed and the Batman Arkham Asylum games, as far as the combat style was concerned. It had a very good system to it, I felt, as far as the story was good, the character upgrades and progression system was really good, and overall, I really enjoyed the gameplay for it. I like that style of game, which is why I'm so disappointed about the move that the current Assassin's Creed Origins is taking. Sad about that. But the Shadow of War is going to keep that gameplay style. But they've added in. It looks like from the trailer that there was one of the enemies was talking about. Oh, you thought you could control our minds and get away with it, and so it looks like enemies might be able to break free from mind control this time around. I don't know, but they do have all sorts of new types of enemies and new types of generals. They also have strongholds that you can take over, which are going to play a big part of the game. And one of the things about the enemies is that the enemy generals all actually have like a personality now that really plays into the game. I like the character they showed off. He was pretty funny, and I got a laugh out of him, and so I'm looking forward to this game a whole lot. I think it's going to be real fun and real interesting. They added in new weapon types. Apparently the map size is massive now. The first game was an alright map. It had 2 sections to the map. This one supposedly is going to be huge, open world, like the first one, but much larger. They had new weapon types. There was hammers and sort of chain whip style weapons that were shown off in the. They also showed off sort of element styles. They had like an ice style. He was freezing people. So it looks like they're adding in more elemental gameplay to it in regards to stuff like that. So I don't know. It looks like they've gone and upgraded the system a lot while still maintaining the original backbone to it. And so they just went in and detailed it even further and gave you a much larger sandbox to play around in, and I really like that, and I'm really looking forward to that. Let's see what else was there. Bethesda, huge VR system they've got working out. Doom VR, Fallout 4 VR, Elder Scrolls, Skyrim VR. They had a lot of VR stuff that they went into. Nowhere near as much as what PlayStation went into, but there you go. But they added in, so Doom VR, Fallout 4 VR, the just full open world Fallout 4, but with VR. So it's the full open world. That's going to be impressive. The Fallout 4 VR or Skyrim VR was talked about more in the PlayStation side, but it also is going to be very impressive. Elder Scrolls Legend, the Elder Scrolls mobile card game, is going to have a Skyrim Heroes expansion. Elder Scrolls Online is getting a Morrowind expansion, and there's a large fucking bear that you can. I don't know how that plays into it, but it was whether it was an ally or a playable character, but there was a large fucking bear who was on the good guy's side in the trailer. So, looking forward to see that. Skyrim is also coming to the Switch, which means mobile Skyrim. And it's going to be... They do have a Link amiibo attachment with it, so in Skyrim you can get the full Link outfit, shield, and sword. Quake Champions is coming. Quake is getting its first upgrade in forever, and they're going to be releasing more information about that later on, but they are having Quake World Championships at QuakeCon, based on the Quake Champions game. They're bringing it back, guys. Dishonored has a new installment coming out, Death of the Outsider. Looks like you play as the gal from the last game, the ship. Was it her? I think it was her. The ship's captain from the second game, I think, is the one who plays it, who you play as in this game. I think that was her. I don't remember. I never really got to play the second one, and I feel bad. I'm going to have to go back through and do that before I play this other one. I just didn't have time. Didn't have time in the whole trying to make my life work situation. Evil Within 2 was announced. That's really weird, since now he knows he's in this sort of simulation thing. It got really fucking weird really quickly. They did announce their creation club for mods and developers to get together and actually create an in-game store in Fallout and Skyrim, with tons of official new content for you to download. They did show some sort of currency on there that you had to get in order to buy that. Again, I don't know if that's going to be a microtransaction-laden hellhole or something that you just build up over time or trade for or what. I don't know. But it was like official equipment items, official outfit items, and official updates and stuff like that. Official mods for the game through this creation club thing. Not sure how they're going to handle that. They did also show off Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus, in which the steampunk era Nazi Germany has actually occupied the US. It has a very Fallout feel to it, having that sort of 40s, 50s, the 50s era vibe mixed into the game world with, you know, the soda shops and the cars and stuff. But so it kind of had a Fallout sort of vibe to it, but it has its open world segments. It's not just running through the castle through these maps, and it looks like it has an interesting story to it as well. And I'm looking forward to actually playing through that one. I think that's going to be a very interesting game. It looks like they've got some new mechanics for it, as far as the suit he was wearing and some of the things going on. Being open world, we'll see what sort of changes that makes to it. But we'll see. Next up was Devolver Digital. This will be a quick one to cover. Their conference was only 15 minutes long. After the EA conference fucked up so huge, they had a lot of things with the games that just, they were very lackluster, very unimpressive until the last half hour when they really focused on Battlefront 2. But they had some shitty YouTuber come in and do a little guest host thing, and he fucked up his lines and fumbled through things and made everyone look bad. There's no shortage of excellent talent on Twitch and YouTube. So why they chose this guy, I don't know, and he really fucked it up and made everyone look bad. They had members of Rooster Teeth in their gameplay section where they grabbed this guy from. Why they didn't choose a member of Rooster Teeth to go ahead and fix this issue for them, I don't know. They could have had any of them come up and do it, and probably not fuck up nearly as bad as this guy did. This guy had a script. He knew he was going to do this. This wasn't just they pulled someone from the crowd. He knew he was going to be doing this. He introduced himself and had a script off the prompter to read, and he fumbled through his lines, fucked up, paused a lot of times, and just all around was terrible. on top of the lackluster everything else that this showed. There was no front and center audience because they had this pit of gaming computers where they showed off some of the games and where they pulled this guy from, and it was a terrible press conference all the way around. And so someone posted on Twitter, at Ubisoft, at Devolver Digital, at Sony, at all these people, as badly as EA flopped, looks like the rest of the conference is going to be great. Nothing could possibly go wrong. To which Devolver Digital replied, "Hold my beer." They also came out with another tweet right before their conference that said, no updates, no game announcements, new paid system model, no something else, and don't message us during the conference. And so when their conference came up, the entire conference was a spoof. The whole thing was a parody. They showed 2 games, and I don't think either of them were real. I think it was all just, I think they were just made for this thing. The whole thing was a spoof. I really had no idea what was happening most of the trailer, and it was hilarious. I put in Discord after I watched it, I was like, Devolver Digital, what the fuck? What the hell is happening, and why do I want more? And that's pretty much all I can say about it. It was a 15-minute parody of the conference system. I recommend you go watch it. 15 minutes, and it'll leave you either unsure of what happened, wanting more of what happened, or both. So that was a thing that existed this year. Since it was an official conference, I did officially have to mention it, so there you go. Devolver Digital. Good job. Ubisoft opened with one of their main reveals, which was the Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. The Rabbids fell into the Mushroom Kingdom, along with their entire scenery for some reason. It's all... the entire thing was decorated in Rabbids. There was the giant toilet. There's instead of having the normal pipes, they're Rabbid pipes. Just everything. Rabbids everywhere. And so they came out and said, he said, whenever I came to Ubisoft and found out they were going to be making this game, and we decided to go ahead and collaborate on it, I told them, do not make a jumping platformer, do not make the stereotypical Mario game, make something new. So they made Mario XCOM. It looks like there's skill trees and different weapons and all that sort of stuff, but it is 100% XCOM style combat. You chase a Roomba around the map, and when you get to combat areas, it is XCOM. At the end of it, they had DK Rabbid, a giant Rabbid the size of a gorilla with the DK tie run out. And because technically DK is in the Mario universe, a la the original Donkey Kong having Mario as the protagonist. So that was a thing. I actually am kind of looking forward to that one. So we'll see what happens. It looks like it'll be fun. Assassin's Creed Origins, they showed off some more stuff with that. The entire scenery is climbable. There's a fuck ton of animals. You can go underwater. And visually it's stunning, but again, it's not Assassin's Creed, but it looks nice. The Crew 2, tons of new vehicle types, and they actually have racetracks now. South Park: The Fractured Butthole was finally given a release date, October 17th. Hopefully it doesn't get pushed back any longer. It's been pushed back several times now. So hopefully that comes out without a hitch. They also announced South Park Phone Destroyer, a mobile game, that I am probably going to be playing the crap out of as soon as it's released. looks like it's going to be the same as the other South Park games, just on your phone and with a lot fewer restrictions. Are they, not just superheroes like this new one, not just humans versus elves in a medieval thing like the last one. They've also got cowboy and Indians as a main thing, aliens, werewolves, just all kinds of stuff. The characters from the original games, just tons of stuff. There's a new Just Dance, and then they announced Skull and Bones. It's from the team that did Assassin's Creed. They're taking the pirating system from Assassin's Creed 4, and they're using that sort of system to really up this pirate game, Skull and Bones. It's 100% ship-based. You have your own ship. If you have a friend that comes in and plays with you, they're not a part of your crew. They have their own ship. It's a shared world. It is going to be an open world system based on PvP. There's a little bit of a PvE element to it, but not a whole lot. It looks like it is going to be more centered around PvP. They do have arena battles as well, like specifically 5v5 arenas, as opposed to just doing PvP out in the real world. There is no land. It's all ship based. There are different ship classes, as well as different captains and stuff like that, character designs. Boarding ships is a straight cutscene. You don't actually board the ship and fight other people. Everything is done on ship, so the boarding is just a cutscene. There are wind currents and stuff on the map, so that does come into play. There is an actual sailing mechanic to it, and that's actually shown on the mini-map, as well as there is they did kind of tease the Kraken at the end of it. I'm not sure if that's going to be like a world boss you can fight against, or something that just pops up, or if it's just a hint at things to happen later. So I think I was more interested in South Park than I was South Park and Mario plus Rabbids. I was more interested in than Skull and Bones and Assassin's Creed, just because it was so different again. They did also show off the first DLC for Steep, which is going to be an Olympics thing. They showed off a Beyond Good and Evil 2 trailer, which, I don't know, just, I didn't care for it was just a cinematic trailer. It didn't show off anything about the game. Said it was set in the distant past, several years before Jade, in a distant solar system, before Jade was ever born. There was no actual gameplay shown, and just they just revealed that it did exist to their current audience in order to hype everyone, because that's all people needed in order to get excited for it, is knowing that it was there. Because the hype from Beyond Good and Evil. But I'm still holding out. I still want to see more before I get truly behind it. Starlink Battle for Atlas was another thing they showed. It looked like No Man's Sky, except you don't land on the planets, you just fly around them. And there are actual enemies that you actually fly around and fight. There's in-space battles, as well as battles flying around in planet atmospheres. Look like that old Nintendo NES game where you're the airplane scrolling around flying. And it looked like that as far as some of the gameplay was concerned when it was on planet gameplay. And I think it'll switch between combat styles. But their big thing that they were showing off was the fact that it was all starship combat, but it was Lego Dimensions, Disney Infinity system where you collect the figures, you collect the ships, collect the pilots, collect the weapons, snap them onto your ship, attach your ship to your controller, and you change everything as you go through the game like that. It's a cash grab. They did show off new stuff for Far Cry 5. They have a AI ally system that you can command, which is very much sort of Ghost Recon style. You can position them, have them provide cover fire or snipe certain targets. There looks like there will be more commands than just that, though. There's different types of AIs. There's the guy in the plane. There was the sharpshooter woman that they showed off. So there's different AI styles. There are also pets that you can get as well. They're also AI controlled, as well as, of course, co-op play. Definitely, it looked very bloody. They ran over someone with a tractor and blood just splattered on the windshield. So it looks like it's going to be a little bit more of a detailed gameplay in several aspects, but I'm really looking forward to it. I think Far Cry 5 is going to be a great game. Who else was there? Sony. Sony was great. They showed off new Gran Turismo with more of a focus on competition. They showed off PS View, which is their own Netflix system. Watch TV and movies and stuff directly from Sony, so you can give them more money because they want to be a monopoly. Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, which they teased that a while back, so that's not a new tease, but they did tease a lot more of they showed off a lot more of the game through cinematic trailer. That it looks like it's going to have a very in-depth story. Looks like it's going to be better than the Nathan Drake clones. Horizon Zero Dawn: The Frozen Wilds was teased. So all you Horizon Zero Dawn fans, there you go. For those people who like a dystopian, so far in the future we're back to a new Stone Age robot Far Cry, there you go. It was very much Far Cry fetch quest thing. Had a little bit more of an in-depth story than your typical Far Cry, but it was still just Far Cry with robot dinosaurs. But the second robot dinosaur Far Cry is coming out. Frozen Wilds. So be happy about that. Days Gone got a lot more of an intensive view to it. I think that'll be a very interesting game as well. There was a sort of an investigation mode to it, a stealth mode to it. You do sneak past zombie hordes. They did show zombie wolves and zombie bears as things I don't think are going to be really fun to fight. They're probably going to kick your ass. It showed the guy setting traps, luring people around, and using the zombies themselves as a trap mechanism to fight off other humans. There did appear to be some sort of quick-timey stuff going on, but it does look like a very interesting game. Something I'm going to go ahead and give a look at. They did show off a new Monster Hunter game, Monster Hunter World, which was very much the... Let me get something to drink here. I don't know what's going on. Voice is cracking. It was very much the original Monster Hunter system, the Monster Hunter World. There we go. The Monster Hunter World we all know and love, with a couple of updates to it, but really they're bringing it back for a new generation. You can get ghillie suits, bait, lure, track, and trap them. You can even lure monsters into fights with other monsters. All kinds of new gadgets. Really just the old system with a new update, and I think that's going to be pretty awesome. An entire remake for Shadow of the Colossus with new 4K graphics. That just right in the feels with that one. Shadow of the Colossus was definitely a classic game. They kind of freeze framed on him about the main character about to stab into the skull of one of the other Titans, and it just kind of, as soon as you saw it, you instantly felt bad for the Colossus that you were stabbing in the head, and it just brought back a flood of gaming emotions. So there's that. Capcom vs. Marvel Infinite, another Capcom vs. Marvel game. Call of Duty World War II. So Battlefield is trying to go more in a Call of Duty style with the Call of Duty maps coming into their multiplayer. Call of Duty looks like they're trying to take a more Battlefield approach to their game. They're focusing more on the story in this game than which they haven't really done in the past several Call of Duty games. They're focusing more on story, and they're adding in some larger PvP maps. And it looks like they're taking a lot more of a Battlefield stance on the game system. So Battlefield is going more Call of Duty, and Call of Duty is going more Battlefield. They announced tons of VR games. Skyrim VR, of course, I mentioned that one. Star Child VR, there was no gameplay shown for that. The Inpatient VR, which has a very sort of Outlast kind of feel to it. Final Fantasy 15 fishing minigame was put into VR. Something called Bravo Team VR, which looks like CSGO, the sort of first-person shooter run around. It looked like CSGO gone VR. There's something called Moss VR, where you play as like sort of this guardian spirit sort of thing, flying overhead, a top-down view, watching another adventurer run through the game, and then you help that adventurer. You open doors for the adventurer, stuff like that. But the adventurer is a mouse with a sword and a backpack and a gauntlet, and you guide this mouse around on his adventure. And yeah, so that one actually looks like it's going to be a fun sort of little game. Unfortunately, it's VR, so probably won't be doing that one. And it's for the PlayStation VR, so probably won't be doing that one. God of War went a little bit more in depth. They teased it last year. They showed off a lot this year. A lot more emphasis on the Norse magic. He was throwing around his giant battle axe and having that come back to him. Using runes and that sort of stuff. Fighting off more Norse gods. They fucking had the World Serpent come out and just jump out of nowhere, and oh my god, was that epic. They showed some more stuff for Detroit Become Human. It's very, very choice-based, very choice-heavy. So it looks like there was a very big replayability aspect to it. But looks entirely different than sort of what they were teasing last year. Last year they had it from the viewpoint of this android who was a cop trying to talk another android out of doing what he's doing. And in this one, sort of showed you playing as the villain. It sort of showed you playing as these androids who are trying to promote this sort of android revolution. They showed off stuff for Destiny 2, as well as the fact that Destiny 2 for PlayStation is going to have exclusive strike map, exclusive PvP map, as well as exclusive gear, weapon, and ship for the system. And then they went into Spider-Man. Spider-Man is very much the Batman Arkham style combat with the slow down, counter, use your gadgets in the middle of a combat, jumping, leaping, flipping mechanic that, while fun for a Batman game, wasn't really Batman style combat, but looks wonderful in the Spider-Man game. Very Spider-Man centered combat. He gets his little quips in combat. His Spider-Man mouth seems to be going. There's environmental style combat. Showed him throwing some sort of booby trap down, which when an enemy walked past it, triggered a sensor and shot web out of the thing's head and then pulled it back into the wall and knocked the guy out. Showed him on a skyscraper in a fight with someone. He grabbed the steel girder that was hanging from a crane and spun that and knocked like 3 guys unconscious. There's a heavy quick time event focus on there, which looks like it might just be for story aspects of the game, not necessarily for generic gameplay, which, as long as they do it right, that I don't think that's going to be a big issue. When they used it during the trailer, when they were showing it off, it definitely seemed like something that was actually fit with the game style, not something that took you out of it. Quickly hammer, fire to get the broken helicopter blade, tail blade out of the way of pedestrians, get this falling crane out of the way of pedestrians so it doesn't crush everyone. Stop a helicopter from falling out of the sky, stuff like that were very quick-timey but actually fit. They also teased Miles Morales at the end of it, and if they put a teaser like that in there, they're going to make something out of it. So whether Miles Morales is going to be a character in the game, playable or otherwise, possibly other characters from the Marvel Universe, who knows? We'll just have to wait and see on that, and what comes out of it. That brings us to Nintendo. Nintendo's the last conference here. Nintendo had Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which had a much more animated feel to it than some of the other Xenoblade games, I feel. They showed off a new Kirby. It's very much with the last Kirby they had, there was big multiplayer. Hey, 4 people can play at once. Well, this one takes that style to the next level. It kind of forces you to play four player, but you can charm AI so that you can actually play, maybe only 1 or 2 players playing and then have the other spots taken up by AI players. But one reason they've really enforced this is you can combine powers now for special attacks. So you can take the flame guy power and the ice guy power and make some new attack with that. They did also have one thing where all 4 people combined arms and made some sort of pinwheel and flew through everything. They also showed the logo for Metroid 4 Prime, as well as they announced a core Pokemon RPG title for the Switch. Finally, we've been asking for it for a long time, and they're finally doing it. There was a lot of speculation about that, a lot of talk about Pokemon Stars, and finally we got some sort of confirmation on that, some sort of announcement for that. They didn't even have the title like they did with Metroid 4. They just said, hey, we've got the core Pokemon RPG title. We're going to work on it. We'll let you know more later. But that's all they said. Hey, we're doing it. Shut up. We're doing it. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Hopefully they come out with a Switch that has a battery life so it's worth playing. Yoshi's Woolly World sequel. It looks like it's just called Yoshi, running around a cardboard paper world. Fire Emblem Warriors came out. Looks like they decided to bring in just a ton of characters through the Fire Emblem world in this sort of new system with new central story characters. We'll see how that turns out. They also showed off the Breath of the Wild DLC. They announced it a long time ago, so it's not a big deal about what's coming out. The Master Trials pack, as well as something called Champions Ballad, which Champions Ballad was just a cinematic trailer. It didn't show any gameplay at all. Didn't say what was going to be in it. It just showed the 4 champions. And they said that the 4 Breath of the Wild champions will be in amiibos. So all you amiibo hunters, look forward to that. They are going to be having a lot of tournaments, trying to bring Nintendo into the esports world. They announced a couple of tournaments that they were actually having at E3 as well. They had Splatoon, Pokken, and ARMS tournaments. They announced the release date for Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle was going to be on August, the end of August, as well as Rocket League will be coming to the Switch. It will have exclusive customization items and battle cars, as well as cross-network play. So you will be able to play with other people who own the game on other systems, as well as they showed off Super Mario Odyssey. Super Mario Odyssey is really strange and a very big departure for the Mario system. Mario's hat gets superpowers. He gets a new superpowered hat, which lets him take over the minds of other enemies and other NPCs wandering around there. He took over the mind of some random guy in New York City. He took over the mind of Koopas and Goombas and Bullet Bills. So Mario's the villain of this one, stealing people's free will and making them do whatever he wants. It's a weird mix of Mushroom Kingdom graphics and real-world graphics as he's running around New York City, and there's taxis and skyscrapers, and I don't know what the hell's going on there. But yeah, he can even use the hat to attack things like that guy from Mortal Kombat. Oh, not Liu Kang's friend from Mortal Kombat with the hat. I forget his name. He was the other Shaolin monk that was trained. He had the razor blade hat. Mario gets to use a lot of those moves to fight things when he's not controlling their minds. So I don't know. It looked really weird and very just weird. So we'll see what that turns out to be like. So that's kind of the highlights of everything that happened. So let's just go ahead and get a full overview of it. They announced a fuck ton of games this year. Project Scorpio really was brought to the forefront, but the big thing was Sony's been knocking it out of the park for the past couple of years, and they knocked it out of the park again this year. But Microsoft really had a challenge in front of them on whether or not they could compete. Games for the system is a big issue, with a very big lack of exclusive games, and some of the bigger games that they had, like Scalebound, getting canceled. Scalebound was one just tons of people were looking forward to. I was really looking forward to it, and they just decided to go ahead and close that one down entirely. Which really, like I said, left them very lacking. It was a game they really needed, but especially with the release of Project Scorpio, they need something. And so they finally, when they announced the Xbox One X, they had to come out with something this E3, and they did. They showed off, of course, most of it was in trailer montage form, 42 games, and 22 of them are Xbox exclusive. And so I think they did it. I think they realized they needed to step up, and they're stepping up. Microsoft, I think, came out the gate swinging and did what they had to. I think they were on par with Sony this year. So I'm looking forward to what Microsoft has to offer. So hopefully Random Encounters can take advantage of some of this stuff. We'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens. But I don't know. That was E3. I enjoyed it. I think there was a lot of stuff to look forward to from everyone. I'm real excited for what the future of gaming holds, and hopefully Random Encounters will be able to share that with you. Our information's all down at the bottom. If you like what you're seeing, then definitely our Patreon's down there. Get in touch with us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Twitch. And we'll talk to you later. We'll talk to you next week with updates on what Random Encounters is actually trying to do. So until next week, bye-bye.